Alright guys, I want to talk about the new Supra coming out. I'm with my Supra, my 94 Supra here. I want to talk about the new one coming out. I want to talk about the latest update I read. And I want to give you guys my input and how I think it's going to affect the retail value of these Supras right here, the MK4. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so as most of you guys already know, BMW is teaming up with Toyota to make the new Supra. So there's a lot of opinions about that. I get it, although I'm not sure I agree with it. I do understand that it's cost effective. At the end of the day, there's not a ton of money to be made in sports cars, guys. Toyota is one of the biggest selling car brands, I believe, in the world, if not the United States. You know, why is that? I'll tell you one reason why that is they don't put the R&D into sports cars. It's a small niche market. It's a lot of R&D you got to put in that market, and it just doesn't overturn like economy cars do, obviously. And it's a niche market. You know, there's only so many of us that give a crap how much power a car makes. You know, today's market's about safety and fuel economy and emissions. Those are sort of the big three. So, is it going to be the end of the world, or will this Supra be a big flop just because BMW is getting involved? I think if Toyota plays their cards right, I don't think it will be. Although I think it's real important that Toyota puts 110% into this car. This car is more than just going to be sales for them. It's going to bring them back in the market. Little side tangent here. I think that most car manufacturers sometimes underestimate the importance of their sports cars, though, in the market. Although I just mentioned there's a ton of R&D, the markets are slim, and it's a niche market. It's also, in my opinion, brand loyalty. It's brand imaging. You know, I work in advertising, and companies spend a lot of money for their image. And to me, in my personal opinion, when I think of car companies, when anybody thinks of a car company, they like to think of the top brand car. You know, a lot of guys, I also own a Ford Mustang, a lot of guys that own Mustangs want to drive the F-150, you know, Ford with a Ford. The F-150 is the best-selling truck in America, and for many reasons. I definitely think there is a correlation with people being Ford loyalists, and one of the reasons is the Mustang. So, Toyota here has arguably one of the most legendary Japanese sports cars from the 90s. So this is more than just numbers to them. I hope they know that. This is going to be marketing. This could bring their brand to the next level, whatever that level is. It's what it could do. So let's go ahead and let's talk more about the newest news. The newest news is that there's new spy shots that just came out where they show the tail lights and they show more of the front bumper. You can see in the spy shots that the taillights sort of represent and sort of have a similarity with the MK4 taillights that you're seeing right now. Obviously that's real important. You know, we want to go to the next level, we want to evolve with our cars, but people want to look at a car and know it's a Supra. You know, and that's something a lot of the domestic car companies have done already, starting with the Mustang back in 05, then the Camaro, then the Challenger. You know, people want to look at this new Supra and they want to know it's a Supra. So getting back into the looks of the car, so we just discovered there's going to be more FT1 concept in this Supra, which is good. You can see in the bumper, it's definitely a direct look from the concept we saw. Definitely in the rear a little bit, mixed in sort of with the taillights that I already mentioned, with the MK4 here, MK4 Toyota Supra. So this car might not be as a flop, as crazy as we think it's going to be. There's been a lot of heat on, you know, the fact that Toyota is teaming up with BMW for obvious good reasons. This car is legendary. They cannot mess this up. This means a lot. I think a lot's riding on this with Toyota, and I think they know that. Let's get into what I've been reading as well is things that they're not sharing. So people not be aware of this. They're not sharing the same engine. And this is where I give props to Toyota, because one of the reasons why this car is so famous is for its inline 6. It's bulletproof inline 6. So I'm curious to see what kind of Toyota engines they're going to shove in this thing. And let's be realistic here, and let's be real. How strong are these engines going to be? Are they going to make really good power, and are they going to be really, really reliable, just like this car is known to be? So let's talk about what they are sharing. They're going to be sharing the transmissions, they're going to be sharing suspension parts, they're going to be sharing other various, obviously the chassis. What I'm curious to see is we haven't heard much about what the Z5 is going to be like, or what it's going to look like. I think that's going to be interesting. You know, is this going to be a Scion Subaru comparison, where they're basically the same car? I don't think so. But it should be interesting to see how these cars look and what kind of effect that's going to have on them. one good thing the fact that they're sharing transmissions is BMW still produce manual transmissions. Although we're a big fan of the new autos these days, I have, just with the 8-speed I have in my Dodge Charger Scat Pack, if you haven't been part of my channel before, I also own a Scat Pack, the new 8-speed, and that's not even a crazy 8-speed compared to like what I've read with the PTKs, with the Porsches, and all these other crazy automatics out there. Automatics have come a long way, and they outperform manual transmissions every way now, and they're only going to get better. But here's what we're learning as we move forward, and it's now shown with Porsche, is that nothing will replace the feeling of a manual transmission. And I think majority of people that drive a manual transmission car will agree with me. And you're seeing that come back with I want to say the GT3. The new one should have a manual transmission. Not because it's better. Their PTK transmission will be better. But at the end of the day, one of the biggest factors in selling a street car, let's remember these are street cars, not necessarily race cars, is how it makes you feel. And nothing, you can take my word for it, nothing will replace the feeling of a manual transmission. The other thing I want to talk about is the competitors. I've just reading that the car's supposed to start around $40,000, and I think that's great, but I want to see a more expensive trim level. I want to see a Supra Turbo come out that's going to compete with the Corvette Z06. It's going to compete with the GTR. Not only does it have to compete with the GTR that's legendary, it's going to have to compete with whatever new GTR is going to be coming out that's probably going to make some amazing numbers and set some track times. If it's anything like its current trim model. I don't want to see it crazy money. Most people forget that the Supra was an expensive car. I think the MSRP at its peak was $46,000 back in the 90s. I think I'd have to flash up some numbers for you guys, but naming other sports cars at that time, Corvettes and Mustangs were half that price. I'm going to probably flash up on the screen because I don't know off the top of my head what a Viper was going for at that time, but probably maybe a little more, but I'm sure in the ballpark. So price is going to be important, power is going to be important, numbers are going to be important, and just the overall feel and look is going to be super important. Alright guys, the next thing I want to get into is how I think how the new Supra is going to affect the old Supra, whether it's this amazing car or whether it's just a big flop. Let's go ahead and talk about how I think it's going to affect the retail and the value of these Supras that we all know hold insane value and we all anticipate to go up. So we were talking about how how the new Supra is going to affect the old Supra, the one that it's replacing, the MKIV Supra here. And in my opinion, regardless of how this new one performs and sells and what kind of reputation it has, it's going to have very minimum negative impact on this Supra. Let me explain why. Let's say this car is a big flop. The sales are terrible, the performance is terrible, it just looks just like a BMW, let's say. It's just going to bring more attention back to this car. This car is already a proven car. It already is proven to be a fast car. It's already proven to be a reliable car. It's relatively mod friendly, although not cheap. And it already has Hollywood fame, Fast and the Furious. So in that aspect, it's not going to have any negative. To be honest with you, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know what's going to help this car out more. This new one being a success or a flop. And the reason why I mentioned that there's going to be no negative impact also as well is because it's such a big time collapse between the two. We're talking this car was stopped, I believe, in '98. So what's that? 20 years? So obviously the car doing great. Let's say this car comes out. It's 500, 600 horsepower Supra, turbocharged, really mod friendly, really reliable. They can't produce enough of them. It's still going to bring attention back to this. We all know that this is where it's coming off of. And once that attention comes back up to this, I would anticipate the retail values going up. So there's only going to be less and less of these as we move forward. Whether these cars get in accidents, whether they just can't be repaired, or whatever the case may be, we're going to see less and less of these. And we're definitely going to see the value go up, in my opinion. And I think either way, whether this new one, by the way guys, I hope the new one is amazing. I'm hoping it does. I'm not saying that I want it to be a big flop. But I'm just saying, in my opinion, it's going to have minimum to no negative impact on this car, in my opinion. And those are the reasons. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like that, please hit the subscribe button. Please give me your inputs below and tell me what you think of the new Supra coming out. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Take it easy. Alright. Boom.
It's true, baby, won't you let the light shine?
all know can handle really good power. We all know that has